Well, as we know, the Alliance Political Council is due to sit this coming week. We are going to be joined in studio by a political analyst, Somadoda Fikeni, just to discuss this further. We are also joined on the phone line by Mr. Skhumbuzo Mpanza, the General Secretary of SANCO, as well as Mr. Alex Mashilo, the National Spokesperson of SACP. Good evening to you all, and thank you so much for joining us. Let me just start with Mr. Mashilo. Just talk to us about the state of health of the Alliance relationship.
Thank you very much, and good evening to the viewers. The state of health of the Alliance relationship has not been going well, but from October 2017, there were improvements, and following the ANC's 54th National Conference, there were improvements. But there were many other programs within the ANC, in government and in alliance components that had to be attended to. That delayed the convening of the forthcoming Alliance Political Council, which we are looking forward to as the SACP.
And just coming to you, Mr. Mpanza, good evening to you as well. Just talk to us about if you think the alliance is still relevant to the future of the ANC with 2019 elections coming up.
Yes, thanks very much. Let me greet the viewers as well. And yes, the alliance is very much relevant now, as it was relevant before, and it's still relevant today, and it will be relevant even in the future. Because this is not a paper alliance. This is an alliance that was formed on the basis of the struggles of the people. People have shed blood, people have shed sweat because of this alliance. So with all the challenges that we are facing, we are thinking that we need each other more, and the strengthening of the alliance becomes then paramount and very much important for us to be able, as a movement, to provide leadership to the society. Because the alliance, ANC-led alliance, is the leader of society. And therefore, the alliance becomes very much important. And I believe that come 2019, we are going to regain the ground that we have lost. The trust deficit that has happened between the people and the alliance is going to be addressed. And with the New Dawn approach led by the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, I think there is new hope for us as South Africans that things are going to improve for the better.
Just bringing it to studio, Mr. Fikeni, how do you think this alliance is working for the African National Congress?
I do think that it has worked for so many years, since 1994 and before, more so because around the election time, unions do bring the most organized workforce, and they often bring also their resources to the party. It has worked in as far as the shaping of some of the policies in the early years, such as the RDP. But in the latter years, there have been challenges, precisely because it seemed to be pricked into action around ANC conferences, pricked into action around the elections. And if it is only for elections and conferences, then its utility value is seriously diminished. But if it focuses on what it said was the historic mission of dealing with the legacies of apartheid and colonialism, that mission is still there. It's a matter of them calibrating this relationship and being honest with each other.
Now, Mr. Mashilo, just talking to us about there is a new dawn and there's a reconfiguration of the alliance that is to take place. What exactly does it mean for the alliance to be reconfigured?
There are several issues. The SACP is developing a paper around that question, because we don't want to present our views to the other alliance partners as a prescription. what we believe should happen and then impose them. It is a question that must be settled through democratic consensus-seeking engagement. Let me just highlight several areas. The manner in which the alliance is functioning at present and has been functioning, according to us in the SACP, is outdated. If the alliance is not reconfigured to function differently, both with regard to the important question of consultation, which affects at least three levels. The first being policy formulation, the second being deployment, the third being accountability. There is no way the alliance is going to hold going forward. Let me give you an example. In 2013, the alliance convened a national summit where we agreed that there were low-hanging fruits in the National Development Plan. And insofar as those low-hanging fruits are concerned, we had to push forward with implementation. However, there were differences with regard to the economic thrust and the labor market policy of the National Development Plan. All alliance partners signed a declaration that we must work together to achieve a review of the National Development Plan. 5 years on, that review has not taken place. What you hear is that the National Development Plan is embraced by many sections of society from all walks of life, as if the alliance has not agreed that it must be reviewed, particularly its economic policy thrusts. Now, a reconfigured alliance exactly means an alliance that walks the talk. When you agree, you've got to implement. Another example is following the 52nd conference of the ANC, which was held in December 2007 in Polokwane. The first alliance summit that met in May 2008 at Galaka Estate agreed that the alliance must function as a strategic political center when coming to the national democratic revolution. But then what happened? Things started promising, and later the alliance was undermined, and you also had a situation in March 2017 where ANC national officials themselves came up to even say some decisions were taken without consultation with the African National Congress. If that continues, it will destroy this alliance. There is nothing permanent with this alliance. What must make it work and relevant at all material times is if it proves its validity under the continuously changing conditions. So the alliance has to function differently. There are 4 partners in the alliance. The views and the leadership of these 4 partners and the total membership must be visible in everything the alliance does, whether it is in the National Assembly, whether it is in the National Council of Provinces, whether it is in government, whether it is in the community where communities are facing challenges. The alliance has got to be visible. We cannot have an alliance that is important in what we say, but is not important in what we are doing. No.
Well, we actually are joined by a representative, the spokesperson nationally of the ANC Youth League, Mr. Mlondi Mkhize. Good evening to you, and thank you for joining the conversation. We've been talking about the alliance, its relevance, whether the African National Congress needs the alliance, what this reconfiguration of the alliance actually means. We were just hearing now from the SAPC's national spokesperson about having all the members of the alliance represented, both nationally, at provincial government level, and having their views not just heard, but actions reflecting the views of the alliance. What do you have to say?
Well, good evening to you, the viewers, and obviously good evening to Comrade Alex. One is that the alliance is an alliance of independent parties, first and foremost. Secondly is that For the party, for the greater party, it should be about some form of political direction leaning towards the left that it must be able to achieve in having an alliance with the African National Congress. If the alliance remains as an alliance of principle, not an alliance that massage feelings of individual leaders at particular political times of political development, the alliance is going to be sustainable because it is not going to be dependent on individuals. But secondly, for the South African Communist Party, it will be critical that as the alliance continues, what it ought to look for is whether is it achieving anything that it stands for as a political formation. That would mean that the African National Congress equally must maintain that. It is very important that in an alliance led by the African National Congress, all parties find resonance in terms of policy and implementation of policy of the African National Congress. That's what will keep the alliance united, not individual feelings, but most importantly, critical thinking. And part of keeping the alliance united is that the African National Congress should not be under attack from alliance partners. No alliance partner is under attack from the African National Congress. No one is complaining about the decline of membership at COSATU, nor the state of the South African Communist Party. Therefore, all of us in the alliance should at all times remember that the African National Congress is the leader of the alliance, but all of us who are independent parties, there should be no one that should find it good to him that he must or she must say something about any other party of the alliance, having not done so about himself or herself.
Just coming to you, Mr. Skhumbuzo, you mentioned the fact that there's a trust deficit that has to be rectified and regained. How exactly do you think this should be achieved? And do you agree with the reconfiguration that was mentioned earlier on of the alliance?
Yes, thanks very much. And let me also greet Ukabazela. But Kabazela, you must also greet Unobalawe Sanko, because we are all participating. But also let me correct, you are already writing there on the screen the Tripartite Alliance. We have gone beyond that stage. The alliance is the alliance, it's gone beyond the Tripartite Alliance. But let me address the issue that we are raising. We really agree and support the issue of the reconfiguration of the alliance. It can't be business as usual. We are representing the communities as SANCO. And I think what has happened in the 2016 local government elections, the people, most of them who are supporters of the ANC, have said to the ANC, if you go away from us and you don't keep the promises that we have made, we are not going to support you. We are not going to vote for the DA or the opposition, but we are going to withhold our vote. And as a result, the ANC was punished, and we have lost 3 very critical municipalities or metros: your Johannesburg, your Tshwane, and your Nelson Mandela municipality. And that is why we are emphasizing that the trust deficit needs to be addressed. There is a social gap between our movement, particularly the ANC, with the people, because the ANC is the ruling party and is the leader of the alliance. And we are of the view that we need to make sure that we restore that relationship. The social contract that we have signed with the people must always be respected, and the issues that were said to be going to be achieved on those must actually be achieved. As far as the reconfiguration of the alliance, our view is that on all strategic key issues, there must be a joint decision-making on those ones. And they have mentioned, our colleagues there, the issues of deployment, the issues of national interest, your security issues, the economic issues, and issues of strengthening the alliance as far as the relationship is concerned. So we are saying those issues, we must then talk in one voice. One issue that has also been raised by all the participants there is the non-implementation of the decisions of the alliance that were taken in a number of alliance summit political councils. So then we don't want to make the alliance political council to be a talk show. This time it must come up with a program of action of the alliance that is going to take the organization forward and make sure that we win the elections come 2019 decisively. So it's a collective effort, and this time we must work together as equal partners and not undermine each other.
Well, Mr. Mpanza, let's just bring the discussion into studio, and just to respond on behalf of Mr. Mkhize, he joined the conversation a bit late, so he wasn't aware that you actually are on the line and a part of this discussion. Just coming to you, Somadoda, what do you think the ANC manifesto should look like? Does ANC need repackaging? Because it's not the first time that alliance partners have complained about all talk and no action.
In fact, I do think that ANC ought not to have even spent much time last year discussing new policy initiatives. The biggest challenge that ANC has been facing has been to regularly develop new policies as if there is no tomorrow, with almost 10-15% implementation rate. And that is the problem, the policy turnover. Now they ought to be talking about how the policies they have are going to be implemented, but also make real the promises which they made to say the second phase of South African transition will focus more on your socio-economic transformation. Land reform is part of that and so forth. And if they were to be even more specific to say, how do they embark on the rapid land release? Because part of the land is in the hands of government. Therefore, it doesn't have to wait for all these long processes. Clarity on those issues and having a clear vision, sorting out some of the issues on the economic chapter of the National Development Plan, because that has been a source of discord among the alliance partners. If they were to do that and they simplify whatever they have, but lastly, they ought to address another thing. They come with priorities, but without necessarily saying how will budget move to reflect those priorities. Hence, they end up in some instances having a token PR exercise of pilot projects.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are running out of time. We're going to have to round off this conversation. Now, Mr. Mkhize, just coming to you, do you think that there are some sort of communication problems? Is the ANC not talking to itself? Why is it that it's so slow in implementing its own policies?
Well, the African National Congress, including its leaders deployed in government, sometimes face a variety of obstacles implementing. Some is just pure laziness, sorry to say, because there are things that when you look at them, you realize that there would have been no hindrance in terms of amending this particular section of legislation. But I think collectively, the ANC and the movement as a whole must take responsibility on some of the things and the slow-paced movement that is happening at government. Because you see, one thing that would not make sense, for instance, as an example, is for some in the party leadership to remove themselves totally from decisions that are being taken in government when they are active participants in government. And therefore, that's why I'm saying partially the movement should take responsibility of some of the challenges that might not be there, implemented correctly in terms of government. But I think that we should generally emphasize as the African National Congress Youth League that all deployees of the African National Congress deployed in various sectors of our government should ensure that decisions of the African National Congress are adhered to.
Well, Mr. Mashilo, just in 1 minute, please, your closing comments on what the way forward is.
I absolutely agree with Comrade Kombuzo, but just to Comrade Londi,
The alliance, yes, is an alliance of independent formations, but these independent formations are interdependent. For example, the ANC will not have won elections without the support of the rest of the alliance. Now, it is important to recognize the extent to which these formations are interdependent. The ANC needs all other alliance partners, and all other alliance partners need the ANC. At present, for example, if one were to pose a question, what is the economic policy of this alliance? There will be no answer, because the manner in which this alliance has been functioning is outdated. The National Democratic Revolution is not a program only of the ANC. It is a program of the entire alliance and all alliance components. How do we give collective leadership to this National Democratic Revolution? And if you want to emphasize the fact that the alliance is made up by independent formations, you must absorb the pain for these independent formations criticizing the government where they do not agree. And at the end of the day, you must take the pain of the fact that the ANC is the leader of this government. So democratic, consensus-seeking consultation, a formulation of a joint alliance program is very important in taking forward this alliance. And collective leadership is going to be very important.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mashilo. Mr. Skhumbuzo, your closing comments?
My closing comments are going to be very brief. One is that let's not take the people of South Africa, especially the communities that we serve, for granted. Let's humble ourselves, go back to them and admit our mistakes. And they are very reasonable. If we do that, they are going to support us. The ANC is going to overwhelmingly win the elections come 2019. And SANCO will be behind the ANC and all other alliance partners that we are together in this alliance.
And Mr. Fikeleni?
Well, mine simply would be to say the alliance should go through a soul-searching, deep introspection, be honest with each other, and chart the way forward, and also understand that they've lost their agenda setting in the last few years. They are always reacting, be it on corruption, on the land issue, and so forth. That they recover and take the initiative, that to me is key, or else they will fade.
Well, thank you very much to you and to all of our esteemed panelists. It is time now for a weather break. Prime Business is up next.